Welcome to a tale that will chill you to your very core. Tonight, we dive deep into the shadows of history, where a killer known only by a name that haunts the streets of London, Jack the Ripper, left his mark on the world. But before we begin, turn off the lights, close the door, and put on your headphones, because this story is not one you want to hear half-heartedly. Now let the darkness consume you. Step back in time to 1888, a year when the streets of London's East End became a hunting ground for one of history's most notorious killers. In the shadowy alleys of Whitechapel, a name was etched into infamy: Jack the Ripper. To this day, his identity is unknown, his crimes unmatched in their terror. Who was he, and why did he kill? Tonight, we explore the horrifying truth. Voiceover, setting the scene with vivid imagery of Victorian London. The East End of London was a world apart from the grandeur of the city's centre. Here, the streets were teeming with people struggling to survive. Prostitutes, beggars, and labourers filled the overcrowded tenements, while the stench of poverty hung in the air. Crime was rampant, and the police were stretched thin, making the perfect conditions for a predator to strike. Whitechapel was a maze of narrow alleys, poorly lit by gas lamps. Imagine the sound of footsteps echoing in the fog, the distant hum of a crowd, and the occasional scream piercing the night. This was the world of Jack the Ripper, the victims' lives lost in terror. Voiceover, somber tone, spotlight on the victims' lives and deaths. The Ripper's reign of terror began with Marion Nichols, known as Polly. On August 31st, 1888, her body was found on Bucks Row. Her throat had been cut, and her abdomen slashed open. Polly was a 43-year-old mother, struggling with alcoholism and poverty. She was someone society had forgotten, but the Ripper didn't. A week later, Annie Chapman became the second victim. Her mutilated body was discovered in a backyard on Hanbury Street. Witnesses reported seeing a man with her shortly before her death, described as shabby genteel. Annie's murder shocked even seasoned detectives, as her body was disemboweled with chilling precision. On the night of September 30th, the Ripper struck twice, in what is now known as the double event. Elizabeth Stride was killed first, her throat slit in a quiet yard. But her lack of further injuries suggested the killer was interrupted. Less than an hour later, Catherine Eddowes was found in Mitre Square. Her face was slashed, and her organs were removed, a grim signature of the Ripper's work. The final victim, Mary Jane Kelly, was killed on November 9th in her small room on Dorset Street. Her mutilations were so extreme that even experienced officers described the scene as something from a nightmare. Mary was only 25, the youngest of the victims, and her death marked the peak of the Ripper's savagery. Theories: who is Jack the Ripper? Voiceover, investigative tone, delving deeper into theories. The mystery of Jack the Ripper has given rise to countless theories. Was he a deranged local, a trained surgeon, or perhaps someone far more influential? One of the earliest suspects was Montague John Druitt, a barrister who died shortly after the murders. His death seemed to align with the end of the killings, leading some to speculate he was the Ripper. Another suspect, Aaron Kosminski, was a Polish immigrant living in Whitechapel. Reports suggest he had a history of mental illness and was institutionalized not long after the murders. Some believe the killer had medical knowledge, pointing to Sir William Gull, Queen Victoria's physician. Could the Ripper have been protected by his social status? Others even claim a royal conspiracy, with Prince Albert Victor, Queen Victoria's grandson, accused of being the killer or connected to the crimes. Modern theories have used DNA analysis and psychological profiling to suggest other possibilities, but the evidence remains inconclusive. The impact and unsolved mystery. Voiceover, dramatic tone, exploring the case's historical significance. The Ripper's murders were more than just heinous crimes. They were a reflection of a society grappling with poverty, inequality, and the fear of the unknown. The press sensationalized the case, coining the name Jack the Ripper from a taunting letter sent to the police. Despite widespread panic and an exhaustive investigation, the case went cold. The lack of forensic science, combined with the chaos of Whitechapel, allowed the killer to slip away. As the murder stopped, so did the trail of clues, leaving a legacy of unanswered questions. The legacy of fear, voiceover, reflective tone, emphasizing the story's enduring mystery. Jack the Ripper's story is more than 130 years old, yet it still captivates us. Why? Perhaps it's the mystery and invisible killer who evaded capture in an age before DNA and surveillance. Perhaps it's the victim's ordinary people whose lives were ended in violence, or perhaps it's the chilling possibility that the Ripper was never caught and simply vanished into the crowd. As you walk the streets of modern London, you might find yourself in Whitechapel, where history whispers through the cobblestones. Could the shadow of Jack the Ripper still linger in the fog? This was the story of Jack the Ripper, a tale of horror, mystery, and unanswered questions. If you enjoyed this dive into the dark corners of history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more chilling stories.